Welcome to another episode of the Unfiltered Nonprofit Podcast. I'm Cherry Chen, your nonprofit CFO, and I'm thrilled to have you join me on this journey. This podcast dives into the real world of nonprofit leadership, sharing inspiring stories, experiences, and the truth about what it takes to operate a nonprofit successfully. Think of this as your mastermind session on the go. Now, without further ado, please welcome today's nonprofit leader. Hi, welcome to another episode of the Unfiltered Nonprofit Podcast. And today I have a fellow CPA here as my guest with me. Her name is Melanie DiReto from the Agricultural Adaptation Council. And also, you also lead another nonprofit organization of Can Lead Solutions. Welcome, Melanie.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me today.
Well, Melanie, tell us a little bit about your background because I am a CPA and I've worked in the industry, private sector before. And right now I work just like you, I work a lot with in the nonprofit sector with the nonprofit clients. Tell me why and the reason why you would move from a for-profit sector to private sector to a nonprofit sector.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been an interesting journey, and a little bit was just good fortune. But when I graduated from university, I started working in the for-profit sector in finance.
Yeah.
I was working as a controller for a steel company, a couple other jobs like that. I started working on my CPA, CMA, and I had an opportunity to start working at the Agricultural Adaptation Council in the not-for-profit sector as their general accountant. And I had never worked in the not-for-profit sector before. It was very exciting. It was exciting I like to push myself. I like to learn new things. So I felt I was very challenged learning all about not-for-profit accounting. You'll remember we got a half a day, I think, lesson on not-for-profit accounting when we're, working in on our CPA designation. So there was a lot to learn. And I just really enjoyed the experience. I had a brief break where I left and went back to the private sector.
Yep.
It was a small organization. I felt limited for growth. And I just, I really missed working in not-for-profit. It's such a good vibe.
Yeah.
It's such a good feeling. And actually an uncommon feeling for someone in our profession to feel like they're doing something that really gives back to society, that has a good purpose, right? Other than the purpose of lining someone's pockets. So I worked in the private sector, only for another 2 years. And then the Agricultural Adaptation Council, they were making a change internally, and I had an opportunity to go back as the finance manager. And I've been there ever since. January 1st, 2022, the board hired me to take over the executive director role there and the CEO of Can Lead. So that's my journey.
Wow, congrats. What a journey. And you also got your Certified Association Executive designation as well.
I did, yes. So when I went back as the finance manager, one of the things I was really struggling with as a CPA was that it was really difficult to find professional development opportunities where I could to talk to colleagues in the not-for-profit sector. CPA conferences where everyone was in the private sector. So I happened to come across the Canadian Society of Association Executive. They had a summer summit, and I attended one, and I was blown away. I thought, oh my God, these are all my people. These are all people that have the same challenges and opportunities as me, and they understand what I'm talking about when I talk about, a problem that I'm trying to solve. So I really enjoyed that experience, and from there, I decided to get my CAE designation. And the rest is history. I still come to events, once or twice a year. It's such a great opportunity to learn and to grow. So.
Wow, that's amazing. So you've been in this role for a number of years now, and what's the biggest setback that you faced?
Oh my goodness, it's a great comeback story, actually. The greatest setback that we faced as an organization, I'm going to say the AAC because the Agricultural Adaptation Council doesn't roll off the tongue. The AAC delivers government funding program for the agriculture and food industry. So we were created to do that back in the mid-90s. And we've been running programs ever since. About 5 years ago now, maybe 4, we were in the first year of a 5-year agreement to deliver funding with our provincial government. And something happened that has never happened to me before. I didn't even think it could ever happen. The government notified us that they were canceling our contract.
So 1 year into the 5-year contract, they said that we are done.
They decided that they had had a change in government, and they were reevaluating all of their files, and they made a decision, it was a business decision for them at the time, to start to deliver all programs in-house. So instead of, subcontracting to us to deliver programs, they were going to do it themselves. For us, that was monumental because it was our flagship program. We had a couple other tiny programs we were delivering, but this one was the bread and butter. At the time, we had a team of probably about 14 staff.
Wow.
And we had to sit back and really think, what does this mean? Who else can replace this funding right now in such a short period of time? And
how long is the notice period that they gave you?
It was about don't quote me on this, but it was about 6 months, I feel, because there was reporting to do. There was some wind down that had to happen before we passed the files over. So, but it meant that there was no new programs being delivered, right? There was no building work happening. It was all winding down work. So, and we really weren't sure what we were going to do. So we thought to ourselves, well, what else are we good at? And we thought, we're really, really good at association management. We're really good at what we do. We have to pass so many government audits when you deliver that type of government funding, right? Transparency and accountability is number one in our business. And so we had developed really, really strong financial processes and internal controls and strong governance. And we thought, wow, we do that really well. Maybe there's something there. And then we thought, well, what is our industry missing? And, in the agriculture and food industry, not all organizations are big like the dairy farmers, right? There are so many small organizations that might have a part-time executive director or one executive director with no staff, and volunteer boards. And those organizations really struggle to really meet best practices because they're busy working on their missions and their mandates. They don't have time. They're busy being an executive director. They don't have time to implement good governance practices and make sure that their policies are all reviewed and make sure they have strong internal controls. They have one person, right? What does delegation of authority look like when you have one staff person? So we thought, I think that there's something here where we can really benefit our industry by offering a service that allows them to access our expertise on a scalable basis. So you can hire someone for 2 hours a week to do your financial administration, or hire someone, for 10 hours to do a review of all of your policies and figure out what the best practices should be and implement them. So, we thought we had a business model with the trust of our board and our members, because that's a really big change. We actually created CanLead Solutions. And right now, CanLead Solutions is the sole member is AAC. So they are really, they're really sisters. And I call it the story of two sisters, because I always say the sisters grew up together in the same house. And now both of the sisters are growing up, and they're going to get houses, and they're going to live next to each other and still benefit from each other and share resources where it makes sense. But it's time for both of them to kind of have their own journeys and grow side by side. So it has been such an amazing success, such an amazing pivot. I smile every time I think about it. The dedication of our team, like that was scary. That was scary. They were taking a big risk staying to try something new, and they all stayed. We didn't have to lay one person off. Everybody stayed, and everyone worked so hard to create this new business. So, and I'm so fortunate and happy to say that both organizations are growing right now. Like our team just keeps growing. I feel like I'm always hiring, and the AAC is doing well, and they're delivering more funding, and CanLead Solutions is just continues to grow and onboard new clients all the time. So yeah, it's been a real success. So it was the most challenging moment in my career by far. but it's been worth all of the effort.
Hello, Unfiltered Nonprofit listeners. It's Cherry Chan here, your host and the CEO of Otis Financial Solutions. Let's talk about something that can be a major headache for many nonprofits: managing your finances. Are you feeling overwhelmed by budgeting, financial reports, or keeping up with compliance? You're not alone. Many nonprofit leaders struggle with these issues too, but you don't have to. At Otis Financial Solutions, we specialize in making financial management easy for nonprofit leaders and associations leaders. For over 18 years, we've been turning financial stress into peace of mind. Our services are designed to meet your unique needs, from day to day bookkeeping to strategic financial planning. Imagine having more time to focus on your mission, knowing that your finances are in experts' hands. If that sounds like something you need, I'm offering a no obligation 20-minute consultation. Let's discuss your challenges and explore how Otis can help you achieve your goals. Visit nonprofitcfo.ca to book your call today. Let's simplify your financial management together. Wow,
Yeah.
that is such an amazing story to turn one into two organizations and like making both of them thrive at the same time. So from that experience, I know you mentioned that, hey, like this AAC has a healthy reserve, had a healthy reserve, and I'm sure it still has a healthy reserve. And that was the main reason why you would be able to afford to take the time to do all the work necessary to pivot. And we talk about the importance of financial sustainability earlier on. Tell our audience a little bit about that.
Yes. Financial sustainability, every time you sign a government contract, they normally build in some kind of language around how are you going to be sustainable once this money runs out, right? And if you're an organization that is always relying on government funding, it's really hard to think about that because your job is to deliver the funding. Not necessarily to think about, what else can I do to be financially sustainable? But it's something that everyone should be thinking about day one. So I say we were so fortunate to have a healthy reserve. It did allow us to pivot when we had the biggest disruption in our revenue stream, in our history. So making sure you have a 6 to 12 month reserve to cover your operating expenses in case you have a big disruption in funding is integral. Like it really is so critical. So find a way, you should be talking to your board about that and talking about financial sustainability and find a way to start putting away a reserve. That's your savings account. It's your rainy day money. It, there's always a way. So even if it's taking a percentage of, any of your non-dues revenues, right? And just making sure that you're setting them aside. But the other thing I think that's really important is to be an entrepreneur. Like run your not-for-profit as if it were a for-profit business, which is really counterintuitive. And sometimes when I say that, because I say it often, people look at me and go, but yeah, you're not for profit though. You're not supposed to make profit. And I say, no, that's just a bad business, right? Like you're supposed to make profit. You're supposed to, but you're not supposed to accumulate profit. That's the difference with a not-for-profit organization. You're supposed to make money and then invest that money in your mission and in your members. That's what makes us different from the private sector. But you should run your business like a business. And one of my bigger clients, they became an organization, kind of under our leadership. And the CEO on the very first day was already talking about sustainability. He was talking about how are we going to make sure that we don't have to rely on government funding forever. And every time they build an asset, every time, they launch a new service, they're thinking about how it's going to be sustainable. How are they going to monetize that? And that can be uncomfortable and it can be really challenging, but it is what will ensure that you can sustain in the long run.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting, the way that you approach it. To me, I always tell my clients that you should run because I'm coming from the profit world. Actually, earlier this morning, I just had a conversation with the president, and we talked about cutting the budget because they come up with the program and it's losing money. It's not a lot of money that they're losing, but then I'm like, I'm not comfortable going to the board and approving a budget that's losing money when you can't carry on its own. It has to come from somewhere, and it's either coming from the reserve or coming from like counting on a program or some sort of sponsorship that may or may not be materialized, right?
That's exactly
so
right.
so it gets it's interesting to see how some of the organizations are really down to the wire.
Yeah.
People say, oh, CRA only accepts like 3 months to 6 months of reserve. What's your take on it?
I say 6 to 12 months.
Yeah.
I feel much more comfortable with 6 to 12 months, because the challenge with reserves, and you have to give yourself time to pivot, and you're not going to pivot in 3 to 6 months. In 3 to 6 months, I don't think that you're going to be able to, you can keep the lights on and you give yourself a little bit of runway, but probably not enough time to actually, find a new revenue stream and implement it that's going to save your business, right? 6 to 12 months, I think, is just a much better, a better benchmark. And when it comes to the CRA, I think you just need to be able to document, the intended purpose, right? You just need to be able to articulate why those monies are being set aside, that they're not just, they're just not this, we're not growing a fund that should be taxable income, because as you know, like that's top 10 CRA audit items for not-for-profits is your reserve, and making sure that you've treated it appropriately. I think if you have a good story to tell, you're not going to run into any issues. So, and then beyond that, I would say make sure you have a reserve policy that you are working on with your board of directors. So you have to talk about, why are you setting the money aside? For how long? How is it going to be invested? Who gets to decide when the money gets utilized? Making sure that you have some good, strong controls in place around your reserve fund are also going to protect you, especially if in a CRA audit.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, one thing that we also discussed earlier was being a good leader.
Yes.
I think I had a lot of great discussion. For some reason, by no means we're discriminating against gender, but for some reason, I've been always talking about being a good leader with female leader.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your leadership style.
So I like to, I say I lead with authenticity, and that's really, really important to me for a couple of reasons. And one of the reasons is a little bit selfish, because it means I get to bring my full self to the table, right? And I'm not good at pretending to be somebody else. I am who I am. I'm not good at being anything but myself. So it allows me to do that. But it also allows me to give my team the freedom to bring their full selves to the table as well. And it's a lot of work to be an authentic leader. A lot of people say they lead with authenticity. It's a bit of a buzzword right now, leading with authenticity, but it requires you to be very vulnerable.
So those are Brene Brown's words, right? So, but my question to you is, which also will help our listener, is the how.
Yes. Be vulnerable, even when it's uncomfortable. So that means being honest when you've made a mistake, being honest when you don't know the answer to a question, when you're not sure what the future holds. It means asking for help, being honest when you're overwhelmed. All of those moments all of those opportunities to be vulnerable with your team are opportunities for them to see that it's okay to be vulnerable themselves, right? It's okay to be imperfect. As leaders, as female leaders, again, not discriminating against our male counterparts, but we have so much pressure to be perfect at everything that we do. We've created, maybe we have created this for ourselves, but I think about this all the time, but we put a huge amount of pressure on ourselves to be perfect. And one of the things I always say to my team is, perfection is the enemy of progress, right? I don't remember who said that. I've heard it somewhere, maybe in one of these CSAE sessions, but it really resonated with me. You can really hold yourself back when you're holding yourself to a standard of perfection, because perfection doesn't exist. So I encourage my team to be honest, make mistakes, learn and grow, right? One of my famous sayings, I have lots of them, my team's going to laugh when they see this, but I always say there's no mistake that you can make that doesn't have a fix. Nothing that you do is irreparable. I had a boss that used to say, we're not working in the emergency room here, right? Nothing is that critical. We're not saving people's lives. So it's okay to make mistakes as long as you learn from them. Try not to do it again, right? That's the learn and grow. Be vulnerable, be honest, and be honest about your mental health and when you need time and when you need to take a break. I think that's especially important. Thinking about leadership, specifically, and female leaders, there is such a fine line between passion and burnout. And I think that we often find ourselves in burnout when it's too late, right? You can be passionate and you want to give everything that you have to your organization and to your mission and to your mandate and to your members and to your team. And you can work 10, 12, 14-hour days, and you cannot take vacation because you love what you do so much. But at some point in time, that's going to catch up with you because we're not superhuman, right? And we need to take breaks and we need to take care of ourselves as well. So I would say that's definitely advice I would give to any new leader, is to be kind to yourself and be careful, because there's a fine line between passion and burnout.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there a specific moment that you were feeling that burnout feeling and you caught yourself doing that?
Oh, yes. All the time. A burnout is top of mind for me right now because, as you know, looking at my LinkedIn profile, I'm leading 2 organizations right now. And I'm not just leading 2 stable organizations. I'm leading 2 organizations that are both in a growth phase. So, and I'm very passionate about it and I love what I do. But I'm always thinking about it, right? I have a really, really hard time turning my own mind off. And I have, a bad habit. I was telling you this before, but I have a bad habit of not taking my vacation. There's always a reason for me to not take my vacation. There's always something important to do. There's always a team member. I want to make sure that they have time to take their vacation. So, I'll sub in. And I'm trying to be really mindful of leading by example there. It's not healthy for my team to see me never taking time off, right? They're just going to see me suffer burnout. And that's not going to help anybody. I need to care for myself as well. And if they see me caring for myself, then that will, and also encouraging them to care for themselves, right? Then it's a consistent message.
So have you been able to lead by example so far?
Yeah, well, I've got 2 weeks vacation coming up.
So that's awesome. Excellent. Where are you going?
So that's exciting. 1 week is going to be an AMC conference for a couple of days, but I'm going to Montreal for a week, and then my kids and I are going to a cottage for another week. So
that's excellent.
It will be I need to spend time in nature to unwind.
To recharge.
To recharge. So that's important for me.
Yeah. Well, those are really golden nuggets because I feel that a lot of association leaders, last time when I was speaking at the CSAE event in the fall, we were talking about revenue generation. But when I started this session, I asked the leaders in the group to talk about themselves, the type of financial management challenge that they were facing. And everyone started coming up with a list. We might have maybe 50, 60, or 100 on the item list. And at the end of the session, I asked the group, what did you learn and what's the most valuable part of this session? Yes, a lot of people say, oh, well, like the session was great, provided insight, but a lot of the biggest one that really struck home was the comment about knowing that other people are also having the same issues as them. And leaders are lonely, right? So
oh my goodness, no one warns you about that. How lonely leadership is.
And then typically I always tell people that I have my head in the sand at times because the team around me don't understand what I'm trying to do, right? So my head is in the sand, and when I have an issue, talking to my team sometimes help, but sometimes it doesn't because they're like problems that maybe 2 years down the road that would happen, and you're trying to resolve that. Like you're trying to resolve the a little bit of setback of funding, and that takes time. But they don't feel the stress because they're in a grind. So you're the only one that would be stressing out at the moment, right?
Exactly.
So, that's why we have this podcast, essentially, to share among association leaders and nonprofit leaders on like how they overcome certain challenges, and hopefully, we can all learn from each other.
That's wonderful. I love that approach. And I love the idea of this podcast was wonderful. That's why I was so happy that you invited me to be here, because I'm a big fan of mentorship and supporting each other. And I think what a great
Yeah.
way, what a great tool that we're giving not-for-profit leaders in the future to be able to look at this and learn from other people's journeys.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Melanie, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for coming here to spend the time with us. And I'm sure our listener would learn a lot from your example, especially your journey of pivoting.
Yes.
It is amazing. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
As we wrap up, I want to share a bit more about what we do at Otis Financial Solutions. For the past 18 years, Otis Financial Solutions has been dedicated to enhancing the financial management and strategic planning capabilities of hundreds of associations and nonprofits across Canada. Our extensive experience has enabled us to deliver tailored financial solutions that drive growth and enhance sustainability for nonprofits and associations. If you are interested in learning more about how Otis Financial Solutions can support your organization, I would love to offer you a no obligation 20-minute call. Let's discuss your unique challenges and explore how we would be able to help you achieve your goals.